Morning, everybody. In addition to this invitation with the attached agenda, earlier in the summer, or I guess it was at the end of August or so, I had sent out some contracts and also an agenda for the course offerings at the TechCon in the spring. So what I'm kind of going to go through now is some details in the contracts, and also our expectations going forward in terms of items that are due dates, and hope we can get everybody to understand the importance of those. So if you have not received or have misplaced the tentative schedule and the contract, please get a hold of me after the meeting, and I'll make sure you get those. So let's start with the agenda, since I think most people who can make it are now on the line. So item number one is the TechCon calendar for the spring, and there's really a few important dates here that everybody needs to sort of keep in mind. The first one is when your contracts are due. Certainly, by the way, I'll accept anything that you send prior to these deadlines. So feel free to do that. If not, we need all your contracts signed and in our hands by the 23rd of December. The reason we say this is because our schedule for the spring is already underway. And if you're not responding by that time, we really need to move ahead without you, unfortunately. So please try to get those back to us by that time. If there's a problem with any of these, or you don't understand something in the contract, please just ask. Happy to walk through them. And I'm sure there are still some errors in the contracts that I've yet to get out after 2 or 3 years of writing these. So please ask the questions. The second important date is going to be March 17th, 2023. And that's the date that we need an electronic version of your notes or handouts for the course. Typically, these are PowerPoint or PDFs that you use as supplemental information. They will be distributed to the enrollees in your courses. So it's important that we have those well ahead of the course. The last very important date is March 31. March 31st is the day that we decide. I'm sorry, Jeremy, you had a question?
Yeah, it would help when we send those materials to you if we have the cover sheets and stuff you want in advance. So
absolutely.
You know, whenever you get those to us, the sooner the better, obviously.
Okay, great. So for those of you who are new, what Jeremy is referring to is you all have your own style of notes. So what we want to do is we want to append to the front end of that sort of SVC branding material, which is a fancy way of simply saying there's going to be a course name, a course number, the instructor name, and the day it's offered. So basically, it's a cover page. That's all we're really doing when we append those electronic files. Okay, so March 31 is the date that we decide which courses will be offered and which courses will not be offered. What do I mean by that? We are a nonprofit organization, and we take education very seriously. But what we cannot do is operate at significant losses. So if a course doesn't have anybody enrolled in it by the 31st of March, there's a fairly good chance that nobody will enroll in that course. And that's not really a reflection on your course. It goes up and down every year. You'd be surprised which courses are slim some years and which courses, they turn around and they're full the next year. So it's kind of hard to tell. But that's an important date for us to figure out which courses we're going to offer and which ones we won't. So at that date, we will then reach out to you. So I think that's a Friday that we'll have that meeting. So either that day or certainly by the end of the weekend, you'll receive an email saying whether or not your course, well, if your course is not going to be offered, you'll be contacted. That's also the date at which we say, go ahead and make your travel arrangements. And here I'm largely referring to those people who are getting reimbursement for travel arrangements. And we'll get to that here in a second. So do not, if you are coming to the TechCon simply to teach, do not make travel arrangements before you know whether or not your course is being offered. Okay.
Got a question, if I can interrupt you, Scott, real quick here.
Sure.
As far as getting our classes out there, can we use different means of promoting the class? LinkedIn, whatever we have, and what format would you like us to promote it? Because we all have networks, we all have people interested in what we're going to talk about. And I think with powerful promoting tools, the question is, are there any rules, format? Can you elaborate on that, please?
Sure, happy to. Go for it. We would encourage everybody to do that in spades, 10 times. Frank would go on for about 3 hours on this topic, I'm sure. But yes, please do your own promotion. And Frank, I don't see any limitations on how they do that. Am I missing something?
No, not at all. In fact, this is a wonderful discussion. We generate banners as part of our marketing activities that get posted up to LinkedIn, that get distributed. And basically, if you look at our TechCon website, our TechCon website is there's a compilation of our education program, what we're going to be putting on, and what goes back to the course descriptions. We'll make it a point to distribute to all of the instructors any of the banners that are associated with the TechCon and the educational program that you can just use at will. You want to post it to your LinkedIn page, great. You want to put it on Facebook, fantastic. You want to send it out to all of your colleagues, and to do that just recognizes that you have the ability, every instructor here has the ability to drive people into their tutorial. You know, and as Scott has, you know, one of the innovations we've done over the last few years is to put a profit share in every tutorial. And in some of the overly subscribed tutorials, the profit share exceeds the honorarium stipend by multiple orders of magnitude. So, Jean-Pierre, thank you. Mary Ellen, just if you could, you know, as we generate the educational program activities. What happens for us is this gets very, very real once we open up registration. And registration opens December 15th. And that's when people, so you're going to get a link to our registration site. That allows people to register for the conference, to register for tutorials, to go back and get all the information. So marketing activities post December 15th are very, very easy. There's one place you need to direct people to. Does that make sense?
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, the next item is the contracts themselves. Everything I'm talking about today are actually contained within those contracts. So I would invite you to look at them carefully. Certainly fact check me. I'm getting a little bit older and I don't always remember what I put in the contracts. But all that information is there. And when you do your contracts, please fill out all the sections within that contract. There should be fillable spaces in those contracts for you to do various things. All right, so let's talk about a few of the important parts of that. First one is compensation. Everybody likes to talk about compensation. The compensation for a full day course is $1,000. The compensation for a half day course is $500. If you have more than one instructor, you're going to split that amount. Now, Frank mentioned earlier that there's a revenue sharing part of that. And that is 10% of the net profit. And it's a very simple calculation. We figure out how much revenue we drew on your course. We figure out how much it costs to put that on, and that includes your stipend and your travel expenses and any cost to print things or whatever, ship things through the mail and so forth. Once we take all this cost away, there's a dollar figure there, and you're going to get 10% of it. And as Frank mentioned, there are a couple of courses where that revenue sharing is pretty substantial. The other part of the compensation, at least I consider this to be compensation. I don't think the IRS would, but you're going to get a 50% reduction on your registration fee if you go to the TechCon and you teach a full day course. If you teach a half day course, you will get a 25% reduction on your registration payment to attend the TechCon. And that's for a course taught Monday through Thursday. I should be careful there. Okay. All right, so that's the compensation part of this. On the expense side, for those of you who are getting reimbursed, and by the way, I should be clear about this. I'm saying for those of you who are getting reimbursed, right? There are a large number of our instructors who just come to the TechCon and have been coming to the TechCon for a long time, and will typically not ask for reimbursement for any travel expenses because their organization is typically supporting that. Okay, so what we're asking here in terms of reimbursement is that you ask for reasonable expenses, right? Consider yourself, you know, when you travel personally, if you're not super independently wealthy or whatever, you tend to travel coach like me. So, you know, please try to keep your expenses under control. And if there are any things that you think that maybe are out of the ordinary, just contact us and talk to us about it. But all those reasonable expenses tend to be, we need them to be pre-approved.
Scott, we have a message came in to me on chat.
Yes.
That I feel it's a little bit of a hot potato, so I'm going to hand it off to you right now.
Can I decline?
Question was,
yeah.
When you described the discount on the conference registration, if you teach 2 courses, does someone get a free conference registration?
If they're teaching 2 courses, Monday through Thursday, I don't think that's an unreasonable request. And here's why I say that.
And neither do I. So just
okay. And here's why I say that. The reason we put that discount rate in there was because you're effectively missing a day of the conference when you teach, right? So, you know, the conference is not one of these, you know, super long power conferences, right? It's Monday through Thursday. So I think that's okay. I think that's okay. I will. I did not see the chat, but there's a couple people who I'm guessing might have asked that. But yeah. Okay. Oh, back to expenses. I should also mention this. If you are registered for the TechCon, the assumption is that you're coming to the TechCon. You're not coming to teach only. And so in that case, we're not going to reimburse you for your travel expenses. Okay. You do get the discount on the registration, but you're not being compensated for your travel expenses. So the reimbursements you are allowed to claim are 2 room nights per course taught. All right. And thank you, John, for making sure my language on this is precise. The idea there is if you're coming to teach a course on a day, you're going to get a room the night before and you're going to get a room the night of. If you're going to teach 2 courses, you're going to get a room in between too, right? So that's our room reimbursement policy. Let's talk now about the course formats.
Well, Scott, before you go on, does anybody have any questions about the reimbursements, the expenses? And again, you know, we're a team here. If somebody's got issues, somebody has problems, we can figure out a workaround on just about anything. You know, but you know, Scott and myself, unfortunately, have to put the stake in the ground somewhere. So the stake is in soft soil as opposed to concrete. So if somebody has any financial issues or any logistical issues, just let us know and we'll sort it all out. The sooner, the better, so that we're not always up against the wall on schedule. Hopefully that kind of works out for folks.
It's fair to say too, I will usually say yes. I think it's Frank that says no most of the time. Isn't that fair, Frank?
Yeah.
Okay. Course formats. So our full day course is from 9 to 5:30. You should plan for 1 hour lunch break, and you should plan for 2 half-hour breaks, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. And typically there's coffee outside the course rooms, and there's also some small food items too.
Excuse me, did you say half hour? That's different from the past.
A half-hour break?
Yeah, weren't they 15 minutes before?
They might have been at one time, yeah.
Okay,
But hey, look,
whatever.
yeah. To me, those are what are provided. You guys can sort of figure out the best approach for your individual course, right?
So Scott, John, that was a really good point. What drives your breaks is when we schedule refreshments to be put out. And that's in the schedule of events. So Scott, can you confirm to all the instructors the break times and duration that we've already programmed? I don't have it off the top of my memory, and I'm afraid that I'll screw up the meeting here if I go and start opening up some other windows. But that's a real good point, John.
Yes,
So
I'll get them.
So if you want to go a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, you want to start it early. It's just what you don't want to do is schedule a break when your students won't have access to any of the refreshments.
Can I make a related request? A lot of times in the afternoon, we haven't had coffee. We've had soft drinks only. And I sure appreciate coffee, although I'm not a big coffee drinker. I think others might too.
Hey,
Ron, you could request, I can't, you know, the last couple of years, we've been on a financial tightrope, and, you know, coffee at $155 a gallon, which is what we pay for it. You know, when you think you have an 8-ounce cup of coffee, and at $155, it's cheaper to go to Starbucks. We've really had to make some compromises in the past on food and beverage expenses. So well noted, but thank you.
Is soda a lot cheaper?
No, but iced tea and lemonade is.
Oh, okay. I sympathize.
Okay, so then not surprisingly, a half-day course is half that time with a half-hour break in the morning and obviously no lunch because they can go get lunch after the course is done. Okay. So before we open up for questions, one last topic, and that's course logistics and tools. So as I mentioned earlier, we would like you to give us your handouts or your notes in electronic format. We are no longer printing those notes for distribution. There are some instructors who want that, and I can sympathize with that. If you have a small class, we don't mind that you print them, and we will always be in communication up till the very end as to how many students you are going to have in your courses, if that's something that you want to do. But it's just simply become too expensive to do the printing and the shipping and so forth that goes with doing this for the entire offering of courses we have.
So
Within the contract, sure.
Scott, excuse me. So
Yeah.
Mary Ellen, thank you. Mary Ellen just opened up the schedule of events. The refreshments are going to be available over a 20-minute period from 10:40 to 11 o'clock in the morning and from 3:40 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Mary Ellen, thank you for researching that in real time for us.
Yeah, thanks, Mary Ellen. Okay. Now, again, I said earlier, read through your contracts and please fill all the sections out. And that's important because one of the things in there is a request to know what you need to help you teach. And by that, I mean, we can offer you a screen, obviously for projection of your notes. We can offer whiteboards, or we can offer flip charts. If you would like to have either a whiteboard or a flip chart, one or the other or both, please let us know by filling out your contract accordingly. Again, there are these crazy behind the scenes costs. And if it's something that happens at the last minute, using Frank's example, that $155 gallon of coffee goes to about $250 a gallon when it's the last minute. And it becomes very hard to do all this stuff at the end. So please indicate that when you fill out your contract. The last point I'd like to mention here is something that can be a little bit of a hot button issue as well. And that's the way the seats are arranged within the teaching rooms. The teaching rooms are double duty rooms. That's why you're teaching, that's why your courses don't start till 9:30. It's because from 7 till 9 or 8:30 or whatever it is, those rooms are used for something else. And so the seating arrangement is set for the day. We don't have the contracted help at the venue come in and do arranging midday. It becomes a problem logistically to do that. And so the seating arrangements are typically in a U format. We know that that's not necessarily something all the instructors like. We would ask you to think about that ahead of time and think about how the best way to utilize that seating arrangement as you're teaching your course.
Question
okay.
about
Yes, sir.
projectors.
Yes. What would you like to know, Ron?
Are you providing them?
Absolutely.
Of course.
In the old days, we used to have to bring our own.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness we've evolved a little bit, huh?
Okay.
Thank you for you. Sure. The only thing I think you need to if you have most things these days are done via USB, right? If you have a laptop that's a little bit older and it's got some funky connections to it, make sure you let us know. We typically have all the different adapters available. But if you're bringing a laptop that's, it's 20 years old, you could be in a little problem. trying to get the right adapter. But yeah, we'll have projectors for you.
And for instructors that are teaching more than one tutorial, we've organized the preliminary schedule so that you always teach in the same room. Not that we want you to get lost. It's a pretty big place where we're going, but you know, for example, Ron, you're teaching a number of courses. John O'Hanlon, you're teaching a number of courses. Those will all be in the same room over the course of the week.
I should also mention too, our AV team is exceptional. So if you need some help the day of, we can get you that help that day. And just find one of us. Typically the AV guys are walking the halls. It'll be easy to spot. But if you need help that day, we have it available for you. So please let us know that as well. Alan, you have a question?
Yeah, just a hypothetical general question. Do you find there's more interest in one-day courses from the students or two-day courses?
Well, we really only have experience with the two-day courses. One case in the past that at least I remember.
Yes, Joe Green's two-day course.
Yeah, that was Joe Green's course. And that was always well attended. You know, obviously Joe was a very popular instructor as well, so it could have been as much a reflection on Joe as it was the two-day course. I don't know. But people seem quite happy with our one-day course. We haven't really had many complaints about people walking out of there saying I didn't get enough. So, yeah.
Alan, you raise an interesting question, but let me share some things with our instructors here. We're going into 2023 doing everything we can to juice attendance in the tutorial program. And we're doing a couple of very interesting things this year. So welcome to being guinea pigs. One of them is when we looked at, we were so skinny last year and had to cut so many expenses that I spent hours before the event in Long Beach printing course participation certificates right here in this room and stuffing them into 30 some envelopes. And some very interesting statistics came out of doing that, you know, because I got a chance to see everyone's email address and to look at attendance over the entire event. First interesting statistic, about 20% of the students take 70% of the seats. We have a number of students from organizations that traditionally you wouldn't think as being SVC participants because you don't see them at the conference and you don't see them at the exhibition. But, you know, Honeywell, Kansas City, which runs the largest kind of contract Defense Department coding facility for the US government. They send 4 or 5 people every year and they take 4 or 5 courses. So what we want to do this year is encourage people to take more courses. So we're offering this year, and it's going to be built into the registration, what we've affectionately coined a masterclass program, where for $1,250, a student can take as many courses over 6 days as they want. What do we want to do? We want to encourage people to come to the TechCon to take the tutorials. We are offering discounts on tutorials to new attendees and to everyone in a 100-mile radius of the Gaylord in Washington. We will continue to offer discounts and promotions to our corporate sponsors for them to send their teams to tutorials or gift seats to their customers. So we're trying to do something new. If you've got a 2-day course that you feel that you'd like to offer, we're very experimental. Because what have we determined? We've determined that the newer courses always do well. And the practical courses do even better. So, you know, we have a couple of new instructors here. Jean-Pierre DeLuca is going to be teaching a course in leak detection. How we never had a course in leak detection is beyond me. Okay, when you think about, you know, the SVC fancies itself as, you know, the practical home of thin film and vacuum technology. So we're experimental. If you've got a tutorial, Ron's going to be introducing, Ron Willie, a course in process optimization. Our single most popular course is troubleshooting. Well, geez, maybe we take that into a different direction and a complementary course. And not only once you figure out how something's broken, how you fix it, but how do you make it better? Okay, so we're relying on you to come up with ideas that address the perception of, you know, who's coming to the SVC. So we're kind of excited for this year.
Can I make 2 comments that are not related to that one, but your comment one or two before? One is regarding the electronics. Last year, I asked about a connection, and what worked out was I brought my iPad and not a thumb drive. And you guys provided a projector with a lightning connector plugged into my iPad, and it worked seamlessly, beautifully. And I hope we can do that again. The second thing, which I didn't realize, was a collateral benefit of this, was pointed out by somebody who's watching in the audience. And that is, I've always had trouble in the past before where you have a slide and you want to magnify it and focus on a little part of it. And so you're either sliding something around. Frank teases me because I'm the only guy that was still using overhead projectors, and slide something around and moving the magnification, trying to blow up some little area. Well, if you bring your files into your iPad as a PDF, you can work on it on a Windows machine and email it to yourself, or directly connect it and load it into your Apple machine as a PDF file. And then I simply showed my PDF file. And if I wanted to magnify something, you just take your 2 fingers and expand it and slide it around, bingo, and you go on to the next side and you're back to normal. And it absolutely beautifully smooth to be able to blow that up and put it down and move from one foil to the next in a way that I never realized the benefit of that before. Worked very nicely.
Thank you, John. Alan, did you still have a question, or were you forget to pull out?
Sorry. No, I'll just say the reason I asked is if there was a distinct preference for 2-day courses, then we should maybe address that, but it sounds like there isn't.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean there can't be. So just a little bit of the mechanics. This is the time of year where somebody on the board always decides to come up with a brainstorm idea of, like, we should have the following course next May at the TechCon. We bring the subject up at the October board meeting, at which point every year I have to say the same thing. By the time the October board meeting comes up, the logistics train left in the summer. the planning train left in the summer. So if anyone has any new ideas for tutorials, we need to have a commitment, a syllabus in the early part of the summer preceding the next year's TechCon. It's the only way we can, because we have, think about the schedule, the scheduling activities. A lot of you as instructors participate very heavily in the TechCon, which means we've got to balance when the courses are offered versus the sessions of interest for all of our instructors. For example, Hannah, and some of you have even more responsibility when you look at board-related issues. So at some point, Hannah, you're going to be forced to teach your course between 3 and 4 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Okay. So all of this scheduling activity, and then there's the room negotiations and the space negotiations, all occurs over the summer before the TechCon. So that's why Scott you're getting the notes. Are you teaching? Do you have interest? Okay, it gets very frustrating on our end that as a response to this invite, one instructor goes, oh, by the way, I've decided I'm not going to teach next year. That we're trying to get as much planning done as possible. So Alan, if there's nothing to say that we can't do a 2-day course and to offer a deep dive into a subject, I think would be very worthwhile.
Let me also add a little bit of perspective here too. These different things Frank has talked about, if you really boil it down, it's a matter of us looking at who's taking courses and trying to figure out maybe what people would like. It's part the instructors are telling us, hey, what about this idea? And then we chat about it. And then we come up with these interesting financial models. Frank had put in place the, what's the name of it, Frank? The
corporate sponsor discount?
Yeah, the corporate sponsors discount for course taking, right? And we fill up seats based on the corporate sponsors discount. So you take all these things together, which have largely started since about 2018, when the SVC started its self-management. Since that time, now you've got some COVID-related things in there, obviously messed everything up for a couple of years. But we've basically looking at, nearly doubling the number of people coming to take courses at the TechCon. We've increased the number of course offerings by about 50% at the TechCon. You might say, well, the number of people increasing is because you increase the course numbers. No, not really, because if you look at the number of people attending per session, it's been going up slightly, right? It's gone from about 9, it's now approaching 12, per course. And so I think if you put all this stuff into perspective, this partnership between the different factions of the SVC and the instructor base we have, I think it's all coming together to really turn this education program we have into probably one of the biggest ones, certainly within the physical sciences that I'm aware of, for a conference of this size. It's probably one of the biggest and best programs you're going to find. So, I want to thank the instructors personally for that, because a lot of what's going on here is a result of your contributions. So really do appreciate that. Are there any other questions we have? I think I've gone through what I was interested in. Sure.
Sorry for interrupting again. I have a few questions sure. In terms of logistics. You mentioned that before our time window, the room will be busy doing something else. How far before the 9:30 time frame do we have access to the room so we can try a laptop, make sure everything jives correctly? Do we have 15 minutes, 20? What's the time window we have?
You have an hour.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Also, can we have access to the internet through our product presentation? I'm using some video. I'm not sure if I need to download it from the website, which I could, or if it just connect to what flexibility do we have?
There will be free internet available in the conference, but it is not designed for streaming bandwidth applications.
Okay, okay.
If there's anything that's more expensive than coffee at a registration site, it's bandwidth.
Okay.
We will spend $10,000 for the digital equivalent of a soup can and a string. And what we have determined is that if you have a smartphone and a cell phone, there's 5G broadband available through the entire hotel, and streaming or tethering your phone to your laptop is a much better solution than trying to use the public Wi-Fi that we spend mainly for our European colleagues who might not enjoy an unlimited or an internet, cell-based internet access while they're over in the U.S.
Okay.
But it's horrible. It's a ripoff. It just, I can't tell you, you know, how painful those discussions are for just, you know, 1 megabit per second total bandwidth, $3,000 a day.
Insane. That's highway robbery.
Well, it's extortion. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
You know, you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. It's not that you have too many other choices. Well, when we were in, we did a site inspection at the end of July. And one of the things we did was check cell phone signals as we walked through the meeting spaces. And it was generally quite good.
Oh, comment. I had this discussion with Frank a couple of years ago about bandwidth. And what I ended up doing was I have several video clips and I simply loaded them on my Apple device and played them locally, and it worked beautifully.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Which brings another question. I'm going to be using different suppliers of leak detectors, video, animations. Should those be included into the digital copy that you need?
Oh, I would put a link to the online video in the published notes, and then at home they can just click on that and go to it. But for the class, I had a copy downloaded on my device and played that locally, so I didn't have to mess with bandwidth.
That's fine. That's just want to double check so I'm on the same page here. Thank you. The other thing is the syllabus. I already provided syllabus. There might be some slight changes. I don't think it will be major, but just in case, I'm assuming we have the flexibility to make some changes at last minute just to add something or change a little bit the format. Do you see any issues with that?
But just to be clear on that point, I think your syllabus, I think it's smart to write the syllabuses in sort of a general manner so that you allow yourself that ability to change some things around. But what we can't do is last minute changes to the syllabus online.
Okay, I understand. That's fine. I'm cool.
So, but that point, jump here, this is great discussion. So think from a marketing perspective. Your syllabus is the one thing that attracts people to take your course. It needs to be written so that it is appealing, that it is broad-based, clearly states the benefits as opposed to the features of the tutorial. It's a sales tool.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll give a great example. So and hopefully it's one data point. But Gary Dahl and Alan Matthews teach our signature course in tribology. And for a number of years, there was an issue, a relatively low attendance, 1 and 2 students. Now, if you're with the 1 or 2 students and you get personalized instruction from Gary Dahl and Alan Matthews at the same time, what a deal. Okay.
Yep.
What a deal. So we went through an exercise to kind of recast the syllabus in a more inclusive and broader kind of a sales tool. And Gary and Alan, how many students did you have last year?
I can't remember, 10, 11, 12, so I can't remember exactly.
In a year that we were at 60% attendance. So well crafted, the syllabus can serve a very good role. Now, Scott asked you to upload the notes in anticipation of the conference. One of the enabling features of our new registration software is that we can literally register people on the day of your tutorial and download the notes to them. Right? So it's simplified the logistics enormously. This year we had a couple tutorials. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Necmi, in your course, you had some updated slides that we just distributed to the course attendees afterwards. So if there are some changes or you want to add some stuff and you feel it's important, it's very easy for us to distribute it. Again, because it's electronic.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Okay. One last question. You mentioned about certificates. I'm not sure what exactly that entitled to. Are the students getting an SVC certificate as they participate to a class? What kind of certificate all about? Because that's another selling tool. People are willing to send their employees and say, okay, yeah, they go to the class, but do I have something to show that they actually attend the class, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes, they get a official certificate recognizing that they participate and took the course.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. No more questions.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Just an observation, Scott. You and I had talked about the seating arrangement at the last SVC, and I guess I invited you to sit at the end of one of the rooms and look at the screen and see if you can use the binoculars and actually see it or not. All I would say is just an observation at courses by organizations such as the organization formerly known as the Optical Society of America and the Society of Photonics Instrumentation Engineers, and several courses I've taken from private organizations in the past years. You know, they have made the arrangement to have the seats facing forward so that the course participants had a good view of the screen and could interact easily in the course. And so I would just encourage our organization to think about that going forward. Other organizations are finding a way to make that work and make the experience for the students a little better and more interactive and easier for them to see the materials on the screen and so on. So that's all I had, is just that observation. Thanks for listening, Scott.
Sure, Robert. And I do remember that. Anybody else? Oh.
Yeah. Hi, Scott. This
Hi,
is George Sava. Hey, I have one thing for you to consider in regard to the technical breakfast forums. Can we can we better align the dates of the forums with the courses? So in other words, I've been in situations where my course is on Monday and then the technical breakfast forum is on Thursday, and it makes it difficult if I just want to go in, teach the course and fly out. You know, I basically have to stick around an extra 3 or 4 days. Not that I mind it usually, but it sometimes does kind of ruin some of the things that I need to be doing elsewhere. So it's just something to consider if we can make that happen.
No, that's a good point, George. And just so you know, when we sit down and put the schedule together, we have a balancing act, and Frank touched on this a little bit earlier. We have a balancing act that we have to play with here, and that is a lot of the instructors. So we try to get subjects. I'll take a good one. So the optics courses, for example, that Robert or Ron teach. You know, we try not to put them on the same day that the optical sections in the technical conference are being held. So if you look at the schedule, you'll see there's this long list of optics courses, and then there's this gap. And that gap is designed to get the optics sessions, free of those courses. And you raise a good point, and we really do try to look at all the different components of that, including the forum breakfast. And sometimes it just doesn't quite work out like we'd want. And I apologize for that in advance. But it is something that we think about when we try to set the schedule, which is another important reason, to get everybody on board with the commitments in the summertime. So it gives us ample time to move things around.
No, I completely understand, Scott, but again, it's just,
Yeah.
whatever, however we can work it out.
Appreciate the comment though, George, really do.
So George, if you're on the program committee, there's a lot of discussion underway right now in terms of the number and number of technical forum breakfasts and the schedule of the technical forum breakfast. And I'll take it as an action item to send over to Chris Stossel, who's our program director, to make sure that we try and schedule anything on with related to your activities all on the same day. Does that make, is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty accommodating, but like I said, if we can swing it that way, that would be good.
We'll try our best. What can we say?
Yeah. Perfect.
The technical forum breakfasts are only Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Any other questions?
Can you shoot us a quick summary of the daily schedule for the full day course with the breaks? Because I always find I work it all out and then it doesn't align with what I find out when I get there. And then I have to kind of be creative with how I parse my sections.
Sure. So you wanted, just make sure I got that. So earlier, Mary Ellen had said what the breaks were.
Yeah.
You just need that. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted a copy of that to refer to because I'll forget.
Sure. Okay. And what time is the official lunch, Mary Ellen? Do you have that handy?
There is no official lunch.
Well, okay, but generally speaking, courses end at, or the technical presentations end at like 12:30 or something.
Well, the half-day courses end at 1 and the second part start at 2. So theoretically, the lunch break should be 1 to 2, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if we find that we could let out at 11:45 and start at 1:15 or something, is that okay?
Jeremy, you have the room entirely at your disposal.
Okay.
So for us to try and micromanage that level of detail, I think would be silly. You may come to a natural break point in your materials and just take care of it. The only thing we cannot change is the time that we schedule the refreshment breaks.
And what was that again?
That was AM 10:40 to 11. And the PM is 3:40 to 4.
And you're going to
Thank
send
you.
it out.
And we're going to see, and we're going to send it out.
And
Yeah.
Scott's going to send it
Including
out
the
as an
start
email.
time for the course and all of that. Yeah, what I find is for the short courses, if we let people out earlier than the lunch crunch, it helps them get settled and fed quicker, and then you can sometimes have less than an hour lunch break. And you're not waiting for people who got stuck in line waiting for lunch somewhere.
So the thing that you will find fascinating at this Gaylord in National Harbor is the sheer number of places to eat. It's somewhat astounding. In fact, there's so many options that one of the bigger issues has always been what's happening now. Many of our exhibitors, instead of sending 2 people to a booth, are sending 1 person per booth. And that's sort of like being chained to the booth during the time period that the exhibition is open. So we're organizing basically runners to be able to deliver food to the booths that the exhibitors can order through an online app. Well, maybe it's SVC Eats, we'll call it. But this Gaylord facility where we're at by far will be the most extensive, expansive, and reasonable place for food. You can get a burger and fries and a soda for like $12, $14. So it will be unusual for us to have that many choices.
And for those of you who haven't been there, there's not that, it's confined to a 10-minute walk. The place is just not, and it's isolated. So people will be able to have many choices and get there and back in pretty good time. Okay, anybody else? If anybody has a quick question, and everybody else wants to head off, we can stick around here for a couple more minutes. Be happy to answer anybody, particularly maybe some of the new folks. If you have some questions you want to ask, I'll stick around here for a couple more minutes. Otherwise, yeah, thanks for attending, and please go find your contracts, sign them, fill in all the parts, and send them back to me as soon as you possibly can. If you don't have them, I'm going to send them to you. So ask. Otherwise,
Hi, everyone.